It hasn't even been 24 hours since I uploaded my video called Gabbie Hanna and Weaponizing Mental Health. And I am astounded at the reaction to that video. Your views, your likes, your comments, your talking about it on Twitter. It means more to me than you know. This is not a monetized channel. I don't have the number of subscribers or watch hours that it takes to earn a living from YouTube. And that's kind of not why I'm here. I'm here for the message, not the money. But I appreciate that so much that I just had to take this moment to say that to you. Now, why are we here? Well, I'm not the kind of person that likes to leave stones unturned. And please understand that I'm not in the habit of just rattling off about Gabbie Hanna all day, but there are things that I didn't get to in last night's video that I kind of wanted to put to rest in my content before I move on and make new content for you guys. So once again, I'm Linda. Once again, this is Linda's World. And once again, this is Gabbie Hanna's weaponization of mental health. And the rest of it starts right now. So last night, in dealing with the situation that is Gabbie Hanna and her content and her dealing with other people, there are some stones I left unturned. And two of those stones that are kind of bothersome to me, as I'm sure they are to some other people, is her situation with Trisha Paytas and her situation with, how can I put this, profiteering, capitalizing on the misfortunes and the deaths of women and girls. So here we find ourselves. Now, as I said, I'm not in the habit of talking about like the bad behavior of creators all day. So please understand that this is just a drop in the bucket and that I will be returning to normal content soon. So bear with me, please. Thank you. Okay. Now, as far as the Trisha Paytas thing is concerned, I'm going to begin with that one, and I'm going to be really careful to not purposely misgender Trisha. They go by the pronouns they, them. And I think that when Gabbie has misgendered them in the past, it has not always been by accident. I understand accidents happen when talking about people who identify as non-binary, but I think that the purposeful misgendering of someone invalidates their entire struggle and their entire identity and is probably not cool. So, you know, anyhow, the situation. So now, for me personally, it all began, I started to take notice in, I think it was January, when Trisha appeared on Gabbie's podcast, which I believe is still called Box of Thoughts. I'm not certain about that. And it was a rather interesting, intense interview because they were trying to hash out old business. Some of the old business including Trisha and her sexual health being broadcast to her then boyfriend Jason Nash, who was part of the Vlog Squad, and Gabbie saying she was just trying to be considerate of a friend. And that was probably uncool, but nevertheless, they beat on. And then there was this whole subtext of whether or not Trisha and Gabbie were friends. Now, I'm not in the habit of defending Trisha Paytas. I don't know that they are not without their scandals and their trolling. But, I mean, I understand that they've upset entire communities of people, but yet they're also a person. And I don't know that this person is I don't know that they should be subjected to such a thing. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that multiple videos have been made by Trisha in which they were just rattling on about, Gabbie, please leave me alone. Like, don't talk about me. Like, don't make assumptions of the fact that we're friends, and don't obsess over me and make videos screaming about such things, and just please focus on something else and just leave me to live my life. And in the last video we covered the fact that Gabbie is not one to let a dog lie, that she is a person who, like, gets a hold of something with her teeth and just runs with it. And one of the things she ran with was this discrepancy in terms of whether she was friends with Trisha. And I think that Trisha handled themselves with the most gracious, open, and understanding behavior that they've ever been known to do on the internet. And I'm struggling to find the right words to say that it was like far be it from me to side with Trisha, but I side with Trisha. And I think that at the core of Gabbie's obsession with Trisha is this thing where people aren't allowed to disagree with her or dislike her. And that is a huge, huge psychological issue. I'm amazed that there's a person on this earth who is so unbelievably interested in public opinion that they will go to these lengths and get this angry because there's a person on earth who doesn't want to be their friend or doesn't like what they wrote or has issue with the way they conduct themselves or just doesn't want to be in the room with them. I mean, I'm 44 years old. I can't count how many people don't like me. And listen, maybe that's its own issue. But you don't see me sitting here on YouTube whining about it. Like, I take it for what it is. And I'm certainly not going to go, like, on my TikTok live and, like, call them narcissistic abusers and gaslighters because they don't like me. And I think that it's kind of important to note here that while I have my issues with Trisha Paytas, they are absolutely entitled to be friends with or talk to or not talk to or be friends with any person they choose because this is America, okay? So why is it that every time I make a video, I leave something out? Hi, I'm editing right now, and I wanted to tell you that there's something that I missed, namely Gabbie's reliance on ADHD as a means of explaining away her behavior. I'm not discrediting her struggles with ADHD. I'm discrediting her ability to inject it into every kind of conversation, trying to excuse her behavior. And it kind of puts a black mark on anybody who has ADHD, namely females and adults. She has both of these. And I can't tell you how many comments I've seen in other people's videos saying that that's like not a cool thing to do. And I apologize. Back onto the video. I'll stop talking now so I can keep talking. Now, on to women and girls. So, two of the incidents that have gone on in the past number of years involved issues with Gabbie profiting off of the deaths of teenage girls. One of those people, you may hear the name. It's the only time I will say the girl's name because her mother has specifically requested that that not happen anymore. And I'm just using that for reference. I will no longer be even saying it. And the situation goes like this. So in trying to, I guess you've all heard the legend, in trying to like film some video where she was trying to turn into an e-girl, Gabbie Googled some images or whatever, and she found this girl's photo and completely ignoring the article on the side. And she was like, okay, maybe I'll style myself like this. Like, what do you think? You know, to her friend. And she did it and she made this video. Not realizing that aside from the pictures was a whole article about how this person had been brutally murdered. And so the images were brought up on screen and the family got extremely upset. And Gabbie had one job, to say, I apologize for not seeing the content of the article. I realize that this is a very trying time for your family. I can't imagine what you must be going through, and I'd be more than happy to remove the image of your child from my video and take the proceeds that I earned from this video as it is monetized to put into a scholarship fund or a GoFundMe or something like that to ensure that violence against girls and women doesn't happen anymore in our society. I appreciate your bringing this to my attention, and I thank you for your time. Again, condolences to your family. I don't know that that's hard. I just did it, and that's what she could have done. But instead, she went back into the video and blurred the image of the girl, and fine. But the thing is that a person who watches your video often isn't going to rewatch it. Like, unless you're like a crazy super stan, you know, and you like rewatch people's videos all the time, which I've been known to do to one or two people, then you're not going to go back and check it out. Certainly the family of the victim wasn't going to go back in and be like, oh, she blurred the video. They just got upset once and then didn't want to watch it anymore. So you're not going to rewatch the content, so you don't know that that's what steps she had taken. So in essence, she'd taken no step. And then she finally went on and apologized. And I have to tell you that I'm okay with that. I think that her apology to the people who may have been hurt by that content was even-handed, fair, normal, and fine. I have no problem with it. I don't know that anybody else had a problem with it. Here's what I have a problem with. I have a problem with using that as some kind of light bulb teachable moment to go off on drama or T channels exposing her bad behavior. Channels that didn't even talk about it, by the way. She just lumped them all into the category. And like taking them to school about how they should comment or not comment on the situation and bring up the girl's name again. And like, you know, saying that images of the dead body were sent to her mother and sister. That wasn't even in relation to the videos. That was just a sicko who did something like that was completely unrelated. And who took the brunt of that? Smaller creators like Angelica Oles, who was just commenting on the situation and was more than gracious and gave Gabbie, if you ask me, a little too much leeway. And so, but what happened? She decided to take everyone to school and tell them how not to do things. And what did that do every time? Bring up the name of the victim. So now that story is plastered all over whatever, while people at home are just trying to heal from a loss, a violent, too soon, horrific loss. I'm astounded. Now, at some point in her career, Gabbie also made a video called "The Girl Who Died in 7th Period." And she spoke of the traumatic experience that occurred in her school when there was a girl who had a substance abuse problem and didn't make it, okay, and lost her life due to her substance abuse. And again, I don't know all of the details of that story because that's not a video that I want to watch. But from what I understand, the family of this person who lost her life was incredibly offended that it was being brought up for profit, that they didn't see that Gabbie should be mentioning this stuff in her content and making a living off of their tragedy, right? Now, I know what a person might say. A person might say, yeah, but money's made off of tragedy all the time. What of the tabloids? What of true crime channels? What, stuff like that. And I see your point. I do. I'm an old lady. I remember back before there was an internet when you just saw gruesome pictures in the Daily News, which is a newspaper circulated here in New York City where I live. And I think that the New York Post is actually worse with the graphic images, but I remember those days. And so I'm not going to sit here and say completely that it was wrong to even mention such a thing. I think she actually had good intentions, believe it or not. I don't think she meant anything by it. But here's the thing. I've often been a fan of saying that it's not so much Gabbie's actions that cause her to be a disturbance, but it is her reactions to things. People make mistakes. I've made a ton of them. And I'm not always open to criticism. I mean, there are times when I fight back and say, what the hell are you talking about? And I get defensive. And usually when a person does that, myself included, it's because we aren't ready yet to see that we were in error. That's just natural. That's the human condition. And then at a certain point, when we see the error of our ways, we apologize, and it's up to people to take that apology and run with it or not. And that's the human condition as well. Gabbie doesn't do this. At the core of Gabbie's controversial behavior is the fact that she consistently reacts badly to criticism. I said this in my previous video, but I'm going to reiterate it to make a specific point, that Gabbie can't be told, she can't hear that she's been wrong even by accident. If she stepped on your toe and you said, ow, you stepped on my toe, she would say, you know what, you're a narcissistic abuser, and now you're trying to gaslight me to try to say that your toe had pain because my foot was on it. Who do you think you are to try to weaponize your trauma when I have bigger trauma than you gaslighter? Right? That's actually something that she'd say. And there's something really amiss with a person who studied the psychology glossary just to vomit it up at people when they show her the least amount of what she considers to be criticism or disrespect. That's a problem and needs so much to be addressed. And here I am 13 minutes in talking about it. But here's the thing. I'm not going to stay online talking about this forever. I want to close with something that I think is rather important and something that was actually a little bit missed in my previous video, and that's this. So many people, Gabbie Hanna included, would benefit from her rethinking her career as a content creator, even at least for now. I think that turning on the camera and screaming into the lens as she walks around her house in a flannel shirt or whatever, like hugging on her cats, being so like vehemently angry at stuff she can't be angry with, stuff that she caused in the camera, and then loving up on her pets, which is actually nice. In the next breath, there's a disconnect that we don't need to see on camera. And I gotta tell you, I think we could all live without that series where she was just basically sitting in her hot tub, like smoking a blunt and talking about her childhood. And listen, I understand that people have stuff, like there's been tough times, and I'm not saying that she has no right to speak on whatever's happened to her in the past, but like, I mean, I guess save it for your diary, you know? Like, it's like the way that it's coming off is not helpful to people. It's actually turning people against you, and you need help if you can't see that. And here's the other thing that I think that most people are missing. When people say please get help to somebody, we're, for the most part, I imagine, I hope, we're not saying that as a derogatory thing. Like, get help doesn't equal F you. You know, it, like, are you okay? Girl, get help. Isn't you're an asshole and I hate you. It's I'm seeing something amiss. I'm calling attention to it. The first step, admitting you have a problem. Maybe go ahead and admit it so you can do something about it and feel better. And then other people in your circle and across the internet will also feel better because this stuff won't happen anymore. You know? Like, that's not hard. I did it. I'm not a perfect person, but I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago. And that's awesome. A little disappearing act so you can get your act together. That's not going to kill anybody. Probably a good idea. And it will definitely be beneficial to people like Jessie Smiles, Trisha Paytas, Angelica Oles, Rachel Oates, Alex James, Dustin Daly, Daniel Prada, Joey Graceffa, Tana Mojo, and pretty much every creator out there, not to mention the unsuspecting audience that is being schooled in how to be a shrill, unforgiving, angry, hostile, shouting explosion of a person. No one's being helped by this. It's time that it comes to an end. I'm sorry to have to play the age card here, but I'm 44 and I've seen this before, and there wasn't even an internet until I was 23, and I can't believe I'm watching this, and I can't believe I'm talking about this, and I can't believe that I'm still going on about it, so I'm gonna stop. And I thank you for your time, and I look forward to bigger and better content in the very near future, so stay with me, and Linda's World in its natural form will return after this. Thanks.